everyone, welcome back to our new episode. It's been quite a while and we are sorry for these delays that we are giving you in between. Although we have been preparing for the best episodes in this while and we have some amazing guests lined up for this week. And today we are here with a very special guest who's going to talk about a very unique topic. You know what? She's going to talk about something we all maybe thought about at some point in life but never gave a consideration to discuss. So she is Miss Preeti Kumar. She is doing her MSc in Environmental Studies and Resource Management from Terry School of Advanced Studies. And she'll let you know more about herself right now when she introduces, and we'll dive into the topic soon after that. You'll get to know the topic when we start talking about it, and I'm sure you are going to enjoy this episode. So stay tuned till the end. And welcome, Preeti. Just introduce yourself to all our listeners.
Thank you, Lovepreet. Thank you, Pawan, for having me here today. And so, as Lovepreet already said, I'm doing environmental studies, but I also have a background in botany. And I picked botany and then environmental studies because I have a passion, you can say, for plants because it goes beyond just love. And I've always looked at them with a lot of admiration and a lot of love because they do host a lot of secrets but a lot of complexity in them. And I've always loved to explore that area. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today as well. So, my topic is. Am I frozen?
Oh, no worries. Your topic is what we don't know about trees. I'll let you know. Because see, we are discussing what we don't know about trees, and we don't even know the topic. So this means the topic is really interesting. The topic is very secretive. It's gonna be an amazing episode, and probably we're gonna talk about things that we humans did not give consideration to in our general lives. But she's gonna throw light on it, and from the next time when you see a plant, I'm sure you're gonna stand there and talk to it every day. So, okay, I have my regular, not a regular, from the last few episodes, he's not been a regular co host, but finally we have him as a regular co host again. And Pavan, welcome back after quite a while.
Hi everyone, how are you? I hope you're doing well. So, Preeti, it's nice to have you on the podcast today. Since we're talking about plants and what we do not know about them, so you mentioned to us and sent us a brief pointers. You called them social beings. Could you explain a bit about that and how you see that and why you call them social beings? Over to you.
Yes. So that is one thing that people don't know about. When they look at trees, they look at them as individual plants just rooted in the soil, right? But it goes way beyond that. So when we have a bunch of trees, a bunch of plants together growing, what happens is they start communicating with each other. And the reason why we don't see it very often is because it's happening under the ground. It happens through the roots. So
Oh,
now they have, yes, so they have a set of friends that help them with it, which are what we call fungus. Okay, so what we see and what we eat are the upper parts of the fungus, but underground there's a big network of fungus that's there, and what they do is they connect root of one tree or one plant with another, and then exchange of food, nutrients, information starts happening. It's just magic. And when we talk about forests where there are a lot of plants present, there these fungus grow crazy, and there can be multiple fungus that are attached to just one tree, and they can branch off from there. And because of which there are different species of fungus which carry different sets of information from one tree to another. Now, whenever, say, so this is one part. Okay, so we talked about so now there's a second part where we talk about seeds. Seeds, and a new sapling comes from there. The mother tree goes and connects with that baby, and she starts sending food to that baby so that she can help that child grow and survive. So we again see that this is really cool. And so she is connected to all of her children like that, and she's called the mother tree. But trees like that also connect to each other of the same species and same type, and then they form friends. So that's another set of social structure that they have. So they have friends within the same type and related types as well. So two species which are genetically a little related but still different. And finally, even the dead trees, even they play a role in the social structure, and they are somewhat like midwives. So what they do is when the tree dies and falls to the ground, it then starts providing food and nutrients through which seeds that have not sprouted yet come up. So they literally help in birthing new trees.
Wow.
So yes, so that is basically the social structure that we usually can't see when
That's
it comes to a group.
wonderful. I mean, it's unbelievable. The way you have portrayed the whole thing, we kind of feel that, we were missing out on such big things. We just thought that we have a community, we humans have this, power to interact, and we have superpowers to understand each other and stuff like that. But I think trees are doing a much better job than us. And I think similar structure would be there for animals as well, right, Pavan?
I think it's obvious because everything is interconnected. You'll have a similar structure in almost every part of the whole ecosystem. So moving on, I'd just
Yeah.
like to ask Preeti about, you said that there's a community type, sort of a structure and everything. So how do they try to communicate if they want to? So that's really very interesting. If plants are communicating, we are communicating in languages. So how do they communicate?
So they communicate through chemicals. So these chemicals act as signals for them. So in our body, what happens when we receive a signal from the outside? What happens is there is electrochemical impulses that go around, right? That's how our nervous system actually behaves. Similar electrochemical impulses are present in plants as well. Even though they don't come from a structure called brain, they have similar electrochemical signals that go around. So, say an insect has landed on a tree and is starting to chew on its leaves. What it'll do is it'll release two sets of chemicals. First is a very, say, a distasteful chemical that would discourage the insect from eating it. The other set of chemicals it'll release in the air so that it can warn other plants of the same species which are present around it. And when they receive this signal, they will know, okay, there's an attack and one of our members is being attacked by this animal. And so they will also start secreting the same distasteful chemical that the insects won't like to discourage that insect from eating them as well. And so this could be one set of signaling and communication that happens very often in plants. Another set of communication, which is very recent, and there's still a lot of research that has to be done here, is in Australia, grass species were found to respond to sounds. So there was sound of 200 hertz that was being released, and the grass roots started to move towards the sound. The roots that were not even a part of this experiment, they started to respond to this sound, which means they were maybe listening. We don't know yet because there's a lot of research pending, but maybe they communicate through sounds as well.
God, this is so fascinating. Now I feel like I should not have taken engineering, rather, I should have taken botany. This is really fascinating. I mean, I never expected someone to, so closely identify plants and animals. Though I've seen a lot of people who actually love taking care of their gardens, they love talking to trees. I was one of them when I was young, talking to rose plants and something. But I never felt, they had such big dynamics going on behind the back. And this is really fascinating. I really hope at least now, we realize that when we so brutally just cut down trees and we just pluck flowers to show our love to
Mm.
somebody else, you can stop doing that. You should stop doing that, at least now that you know that they almost live like we live. They almost have this society. If you pull out a member from that society, the entire family is going to be hurt. Great. Okay, so you were talking about these plants having a social community, the plants protecting each other from calamities and stuff. I want to know from you, it's very often we see that how the branches of trees or the trunks of trees, are eaten by small insects or pests. Crops are attacked by pests, and then even at our homes, the wooden, whatever wooden is there, they are all eaten up by dynamites or pests. I don't know exactly what it is, but then yes. So how do they identify? Okay, then okay, now this door is old. I should probably go and attack this door, or now this tree's branch is old. I should probably go. How do they identify all of this, and how do they memorize all these things? Is there some mind mapping happening inside them? Because what we know is that they don't have a brain. How do they do all of this?
Okay, so that's an excellent question. I'm very happy you asked it. So we talked about stresses a while back, right? So what happens is when these pests come to attack these trees or anything, so I told you that there's a certain chemical response that gets initiated, right, which discourages them. So chemicals is one, they release resins, they release gums, those white milky substances. But the catch here is the weak and the old ones can't, because responding to these stresses require a lot of energy and they don't have so much of energy to spend. And so if you see a continuous onslaught happening on such trees, then it means that they're not able to respond. And since we're seeing them on an urban setting, that means that they don't have their community with them. They don't have their partners, their families, the healthy fungi that's providing them water and nutrients from the soil. They don't have all of these guys to help support them when they're old and sick. That brings me to another point that Pavan mentioned. How do they communicate? This is another set of communication. So when an old tree is not able to respond to stresses in a forest, in a natural setting, the other trees that are connected to this old or weak one, they will see that this tree is not able to, and they will provide these distasteful chemicals to it. You can't produce them on your own. Here, take some.
Oh my
Protect
god.
yourself.
This is,
Yeah,
So
even more
when
Preeti, this
cooperative
is
these
than humans,
somewhat
I
similar.
swear.
Preeti, this is somewhat similar, if I can say, in humans. So young and old are
Yeah.
not very active, and so it's a very middle-aged people who are always, they go to
The
war and
youth.
all these.
The youth. Oh God, they are more cooperative
yes,
than humans. That's so ironic.
yes. Okay, so coming on to your memory part of it, what
Yeah.
happens is this is how they develop protective structures. Like if you see thorns, if you see, yeah, those little spikes on the brinjal leaf, if you would have noticed. So this is
Yeah.
how they develop these protective structures. Like over time, when they're starting to notice a pattern, that this particular insect is coming and chewing on me, then they will start to alter their genetics. That happens in us also, like how our appendix is slowly reducing in
Hmm.
size. Similarly, their genetics will also start to alter, and so they will develop these. But they also apparently have conscious memory. Okay, so turns out, okay, so turns out that trees after winter, during autumn, when they shed their leaves and everything, then when they start waiting for spring to come back, they are counting days, and they keep counting days till the sun starts to stay for longer. And they know the sun is staying for longer because they start counting hours now. And they wait until the days are at least 13 hours of good sunlight they're getting, and they wait for almost 2 weeks to sprout leaves again. So it turns out that in the end, so if the winter has stayed for longer this year, they will remember that next year so that they leave out a little later and don't risk. Have you noticed winters may, for like a brief period of time, it will become very hot and then
Yeah.
it goes back to being cold
Yes.
again?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So to risk not leaving in that short period, they count hours and days. And if winter stays longer this year, they will remember that and flower or leaf out next year according to their memories of this year.
Oh my God.
So we can notice such patterns as well in trees.
Amazing. That's so amazing. I mean, this is more complex than a Python program. God, what is this is something God has done some programming in them, some coding, and he's giving life to these. I personally would say this, I would confess this today that, at some point in life, we start considering plants as okay. it's there or it's not even there, that doesn't even matter. But you just cannot understand so much going on inside them. I swear the memory part has given me legit shocks, and I'm going to study more about it now. Okay, so yeah, one natural question is over here is like, we humans are really reluctant towards our environment. This is very, 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 very visible, very, very. We can witness this every day on a regular basis. Above that, there are only a few people who actually give worth to, caring for plants, for planting more trees and everything. So, do you think urbanization has somehow affected the life cycle? Just like we say, pandemics and things that have come up, modernization has affected human health. Although we have a longer life now, but we don't have a healthier life anymore, right? So do you think urbanization similarly has impacted on the life cycle of plants, how long they live, how healthy they live, how long they can reproduce, and how long they can actually be strong enough to give out those signals, all of these things that you told. So yeah, what is the impact of urbanization on these plants and their community?
Okay, so the impact is massive to say the least, because when we urbanize any given area, right? One of the major things that happen is concretization. Okay, we take away the natural soil layer that we have and we lay concrete over it. Okay, so that leads to something called compaction of soil. The soil gets very compacted, it's not as aerated as before. Okay, I will come to that. Another thing that happens is fragmentation. So, say for example, you have built a highway through a forest, or you've taken a big chunk of forest and deforested it and converted into something else. You've changed the way it's used, but you've also fragmented that one forest. Correct. Also, another thing, we will come to this later, what happens after that area has become hugely urbanized. So when we have concretized and compacted the soil, the root health becomes very bad because the roots need good aerated soil, because even they need to breathe. They cannot be like very compactly, tightly pressed or anything. So because of that, again, the fungus gets hugely impacted. So the healthy communication that's happening between trees, that gets lost. Root rot starts to occur, and again, the total health, like you said, decreases, and it has an effect in decades. So say a tree was supposed to live up to say 200, 300 years, because that's at least how long trees live. They don't even live to, a fourth or a fifth of that time. They'll probably die by 150 years or something. Okay, and that is pretty young if we say for a tree, right? Also, when we're talking about fragmentation, yes, the fungus gets lost because a fungus was found in a forest which was 2,400 years old, and it was across 3,000 acres. So when you break a forest like that, and when you fragment it and turn a part of that forest into something else, you're losing very essential fungal networks, and you're also losing essential trees. What if one of those trees in that area was a mother tree to maybe like 10, 20, 50 trees? We don't know that. And so we've lost that. And so those trees don't have the support of their mother or their friends anymore. So another thing that leads to fragment, when we fragment and concretize, trees move. Okay. So that is one thing that we have noticed over the years. So when ice age sets in and when the ice age retreats, the ice retreats, the trees also move accordingly, right? So, and how or why do they move? Because they send their seeds further north or further south, depending on the climatic variability, correct? So when we concretize an area, we're restricting them to that localized place. So right now, when the climate change is happening, the trees are not able to move, they're not able to adapt. So similarly, our adaptation is also going to get hampered if the trees are not able to adapt, because we know trees are responsible for like holding the microclimate together and in turn holding the macroclimate together, right? So again, we lose out on that because the seeds that are trying to go further south or further north, they're being unsuccessful because they're landing on concrete. Okay, so these two things happen when we have freshly removed off a chunk of forest or anything. Also, before I forget, they also control rainfall. We know that, right? So if we right now harm our Western Ghats or Eastern Ghats in any way, it's going to affect not only our monsoon, but also allied countries' monsoon like Pakistan. Because if you follow how the monsoon winds go, they go from India, then a part of it goes to Pakistan, and the other half takes a turn towards the east, right? So if we destroy our forest, another country is going to get affected. Their monsoon is going to get hampered, their economy, their life is going to get hampered. So it's cross country. We can't just think about it like just ourselves, right? Now, say we've urbanized the area, right? Completely. Now, things that will start happening to the trees are first, dogs are going to pee on them. Okay. And even though we see of this as something inert, the pees of dog is very high in pH and it causes acid burn, something similar to acid burn for
Really?
trees and their roots. Yes,
Oh.
because it becomes very acidic and that part of the tree starts to rot and die away.
And we take our dogs outside so that they can pee on the plants. Oh God, ridiculous.
Okay. Pollutants in the air. If you might have noticed, there are yellowing, browning spots on leaves. That
Hmm.
is the effect of the pollutants that we have in the air. So
Yeah,
that hampers photosynthesis, food production, growth in
yeah,
general.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Again, compaction of soil, as I mentioned, root is not healthy. The pruning that we do, we go and cut stems off. Again, a very dangerous thing to do for plants, because when we do, we have created an open wound, and that open wound is fresh for insects to come and attack. And
Oh,
since it has already lost, it's like lost a limb of itself, right? And so now it's already weakened. So how good will it be at protecting its own self when a pest does come and attack?
very true.
Correct. So all of these things and urban heat island effect. So what happens is, in an urban area, heat gets trapped a lot because all the concrete and all the dark roads and everything, they tend to trap heat and they radiate it very slowly. So because of this, urban areas are usually hotter than when you move off urban,
Please,
right?
yeah,
You would have,
yeah,
everybody has noticed it also.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
because of this, trees don't get their good night's sleep, and when you don't get enough sleep, we are all a mess, right? And so are trees. So since they're not getting rest and in the morning they're starting to work again, because of this, again, their lifespan gets reduced by decades.
Wow.
And
Almost works like human life, right? I mean, even more complex than that, actually. Well,
yes,
all of these are like very technical things, Preeti. Although I think I'm already fascinated by all the things that you said, and it's definitely gonna affect our mindset from now, because this dog thing was so is so common. We see, people taking their pets outside to pee in the plants, to pee near the certainly near the branches of no near the roots of trees, especially, and we think it's so cool, but ever since we have been doing so wrong. I mean, this is eye opening. But tell me one thing: all of this being so technical in the layman language, if cutting off the branches of trees or giving them those cute shapes in order to make them look pretty and doing all of these things is wrong, then how do we sustain whatever requirements are there from the trees? Suppose we need woods, we need their leaves also at certain points, we need curry leaves, suppose, for putting in our vegetables, we need dhania leaves, coriander leaves, I mean. So we have to cut them off to use them. In that situation we are doing something which according to you is wrong, according to science is wrong. Then how do we, for a layman, how do we sustain our needs while taking care of plants? Any idea?
okay. So pruning and all of that, that usually occurs when we're talking about ornamental plants in forests, right? So that is a little separate from harvesting curry leaves and then coriander and all of that. So here is where a little bit of the discourse of all plant conservation takes off a branch. Okay, so here there is one side that we call domesticated plants, and then we have wild plants. Okay, so domesticated plants are the ones that we require for our everyday use, like the leaves that you said, coriander, um, our curry patta, curry leaves.
Curry
Yeah,
patta,
so all of
tulsi.
these come there.
Hmm.
Yeah. So for domesticated trees, the one good thing for them is that we humans are constantly taking care of them, right? Because we need a continuous harvest from them. So we're
Yeah.
ensuring optimal growth for them. Like even coriander, when we harvest them, we cut it from the base, we let it grow again, and then we cut it only when the right time is there. Similarly, with Kadi patta, we don't pluck off like a huge big trunk of it. We're
Yeah.
only taking like handful of leaves from it, right? So when you look at it in the broader scale, it's fine.
Okay.
And also domesticated trees in a way are not very big on conservation. We don't really promote conservation of it because since we're deriving use from it, we are already in a way conserving them. Like we won't go talking about conserving mangoes and oranges because we are already making sure that they are present in our world, right?
Yeah.
So, and if a pest does attack them, we have all sorts of pesticides, both organic and inorganic,
Hmm.
to discourage that pest when these domesticated plants are not able to themselves, right? So now when it comes to undomesticated plants and trees, they're definitely for them to be able to sustain themselves well because they don't have constant human support. I think it is very necessary for us to, not be careless and, pluck trees like pluck leaves and everything, like how you said, because it does have a negative impact on them.
Yeah. 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 Okay, that's something really good because I was going to feel guilty from tomorrow if I plucked curry leaves, but now that you have told me, it's kind of relaxed. It's kind of relieving because okay, if you're using your domestic plants for your use, you're also taking care of them. So it's like a give and take relationship that you have with them. But for larger forest, you don't go out there to water them, right? So you have no rights to break whatever you want to break out of them. That's how it works. So the amount of love you're giving, that's the only amount of love you're gonna receive. There is no just giving or just taking in case of plants as well. So make sure, guys, that just because they can't speak, you're not allowed to break their limbs. You're not allowed. Okay, Pavan, I think this was a very interesting episode. I absolutely enjoyed it. And Pavan, I think, would be having something to add to it now.
It's actually nothing. I think Preeti, this gyan that you've given, I think, which is some. I have trees in my house, so I'm like looking at them right now and wondering, what am I doing? Literally. So since you have given quite a very brief way, made everybody understand the whole process that's happening and all that. And since we are like close to like what 8 minutes left, so I just like you to put out some message to everybody out there. How do you want them to see these things, and what would you want them to take away from this episode and at the end?
Also,
Okay.
Preeti, with this, also just add a small note as to when did you realize this love for plants that you have? Because apparently we don't realize
Yeah.
when we start loving things or people. So when did you fall in love with plant life, and when did you develop this fascination for them? I'm truly inspired from you, by the way.
I think I developed this because of my grandfather, because he was the one who used to. So I've always seen the garden as it was, right? Because before me itself, my grandfather had this really extensive garden and would like take really good care of it. So I think it started there. But I've loved plants ever since I was a child. I don't know, probably because of him. But yeah, so I think we really don't realize when we start loving something. It's just like a process, and in the end, it just clicks. It's like, oh my god, I love them so much. And for that, I would like to, if one message I would have to give out to everybody who's watching this, when you next time when you think about forests, or when you think about deforestation, or when you think about anything that's happening which is going to change the way our nature is going to be, just imagine that just like people and just like animals, if you can have sympathy for them, then it's only just for you to also have sympathy for plants as well. So cutting down trees for lumber, cutting down trees for industry, cutting down trees for economy, like how everybody's trying to justify it now. Like, see, those guys did it, and so are we going to. I don't think killing lives and killing communities and destroying societies is just in any way. If you can say that human communities are important, if you can say animal communities are important, then plant communities are also just as important. So if a really old ancient forest is going to be destroyed, then you should definitely think about this.
Very true. It's all, again, it all boils down to values. It all boils down to understanding that if you're destroying a plant today, you're probably destroying the whole family of it. Just like you say, if a son or a daughter in a family is dying out of whatever reasons, then the whole family is disturbed, right? So similarly, if you're by mistake also, if you're stepping on any of the plants, if you're mistakenly doing any mistakes, please be little more conscious now. And now that you know they have a society of their own, they have a community of their own, start respecting them and start being a little empathetic towards it. And yes, we'll be in a much better place if we would take care of our biodiversity, because that's all is truly economy for us. We're all going to be in a much better off positions, and also coexistence is the key. So yes, Pavan, I would like you to do the ending today for a change. Our listeners need to listen to you.
All right, so viewers, it's been quite a while. So this episode is going to get you thinking about plants, about forests, about even your gardens and everything else around you. So it's okay to be in a concrete jungle, but it's better to be in a jungle than a concrete jungle any day. So keep watching for this episode, share this, and also subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to subscribe, okay? Because that's quite
Yes.
it's quite going to give everybody else a platform to talk about various things, just like Beauty has done today. Thank you very much. We
Thank
will
you,
all see you in the
Preeti.
next episode.